Instacart is on a mission to have you not leave the couch this basketball season. Because between the pre-game rituals and the post-game interviews, it can be difficult to find time for everything else. So let Instacart take care of your game day snacks or weekly restocks and get delivery in as fast as 30 minutes. Because we hear it's bad luck to be hungry on game day. So download the Instacart app today and enjoy $0 delivery fees on your first 3 orders. Service fees apply for 3 orders in 14 days, excludes restaurants.
It's Saturday, the 12th of April. I'm Mike Willer in for Jamie East, and this was a week that saw tariffs dominate the headlines, Kemi struggle on the local election campaign trail, the UK getting a universal theme park, and Ed Sheeran spilling the tea on his Taylor Swift friendship.
Grab a cup of something hot, put up your feet, and get up to speed on the 7 biggest stories of the week. This is the Standout 7 from the Smart 7.
It's news,
but not the news.
It's been 10 days since Donald Trump's Liberation Day, which saw him announce a fairly random selection of tariffs for countries around the world. It's been a brutal 10 days for stock markets, with all major indices showing drops as the markets reacted badly to Trump's grand plan to reset the US relationship with its international trading partners. The international chaos prompted UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer to call for the UK to do its own economic reset on Monday, but he was careful to avoid criticising Trump's tariffs as he announced a new investment in green energy at the Jaguar Land Rover plant in Birmingham.
This is the moment when we back British business and charge up the electric revolution. British electric cars running off clean British power made by British workers.
The tariff war pushed the US and the global economy close to a crisis, with investment bank Goldman Sachs raising the odds of recession to 45%. Director of the Institute for Fiscal Studies, Paul Johnson, said that if this continues, there's no good news ahead.
We're certainly in for a period of much slower growth than we were expecting, quite possibly a recession. I think one of the worrying things here is it's not obvious what there is in which can hold him back or stop him or move him in a different direction.
The US president famously has a Diet Coke button on his desk in the White House to summon his favourite beverage. But the world must be starting to wonder if he also has a tariff button. The new wave of tariffs from Liberation Day came into effect on Tuesday, and China found itself facing a cumulative tariff of 104% after it retaliated against Trump's initial levy. Stock markets plunged again as it became clear that, for the moment at least, there was no changing Trump's mind. Chancellor Rachel Reeves pushed back on suggestions that the UK should mount a Buy British campaign, but attempted to reassure people that the government will support businesses and individuals affected by the 10% tariff.
This is an anxious time for families who are worried about the cost of living. We have your backs. And British businesses who are worried about what a changing world will mean for them. We have your backs too.
Trump warned on Tuesday evening that his next target will be pharmaceuticals, which could have a further huge impact on markets. China remained defiant despite the new additional 50% tariff, with Foreign Ministry spokesman Lin Jian warning Trump and America that his nation won't back down.
If the US disregards the interests of both countries and the international community and insists on engaging in a tariff and trade war, China will fight to the end.
Then, out of the blue on Wednesday, after a full week of tariff drama, Donald Trump changed his mind. The US president fired off a Truth Social post announcing a 90-day pause in his new tariffs as he claimed more than 75 countries had reached out to make a deal. The news caught almost everyone by surprise, including Trump's own trade ambassador, Jamieson Greer, who was testifying in front of Congress when the news story broke. Democratic Congressman Steve Horsford could not believe what he was seeing.
WTF? Who's in charge?
Well, as I mentioned...
it looks like your boss just pulled the rug out from under you and paused the tariffs, the taxes on the American people. There's no strategy. You just found out. 3 seconds ago, sitting here, we saw you.
It seems as though signs of a collapse in the bond markets, rather than the EU's plan to implement 25% tariffs on key US goods next week, sparked Trump's flip-flop. He did double down on his China tariff, cranking it up to an eye-watering 125%. But the stock markets didn't seem to care as they bounced back to life. White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt was trying to make it sound like this was the plan from the beginning.
Many of you in the media clearly missed the art of the deal. You clearly failed to see what President Trump is doing here. You tried to say that the rest of the world would be moved closer to China when in fact we've seen the opposite effect.
Donald Trump was at it again on Thursday as he cranked up tariffs on China by another 20% to take the total to 145%. His flip-flop on tariffs this week had a temporary positive effect on the markets, but by Friday morning, the red lights were flashing once again as the dollar sank and the bond yields began to rise again. Matters weren't helped by Thursday's cabinet meeting, which saw Trump promise deals with 75 countries in the next 90 days, but offered no specifics. He also spoke of transition costs and suggested that there was a good chance of the tariffs returning.
But I mean, if we can't make the deal that we want to make or we have to make or that's, good for both parties, it's got to be good for both parties. And then we go back to where we were.
UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer admitted on Thursday that he hasn't spoken to the US president since the 10% tariff was implemented. Trump has boasted that countries are calling to kiss his ass, but Rachel Reeves said that talks with the US on a trade deal and on tariffs are ongoing.
We're working intensely with our US counterparts to try and improve upon the tariffs. We have balanced trade with the United States of America, so I think we're in a good position to get a deal.
It was a strange week in UK politics, with bin strikes, theme parks and local policing dominating the agenda. Birmingham has been struggling to cope with a month-long bin strike that has seen rubbish piling up on the streets and residents warning of infestations of rodents. The strike started after Unite members walked off the job in a dispute over pay and jobs. There have been talks ongoing between the union and the City Council, which were described as productive on Tuesday. But Birmingham City Council leader John Cotton said there were still a number of issues to resolve.
Look, I understand how difficult this is for the people of the city. This is why we're very keen to get a resolution to the dispute and also why we're taking the contingency measures that we are as well, to ensure that we're providing support to the people in this very difficult circumstance.
Friday morning saw some trucks begin to roll out again as progress was made in the dispute. But with a month's worth of rubbish on the streets, Health Secretary Wes Streeting was also warning that the situation is approaching a major public health crisis.
I think we do have a public health challenge now on the streets of Birmingham, and it needs to be cleaned up. And while the dispute is rumbling on, I hope that there will be a degree of responsibility exercised to make sure that the lorries are allowed to leave the depots.
Life is a roller coaster, as wise man Ronan Keating once sang, and the current economic climate has certainly had far too many dramatic ups and downs recently. But if you're a roller coaster fan, you'll be delighted to hear a brand new theme park is on the way to the UK. And not just any theme park, this is the first Universal branded park anywhere in Europe. And it could see an investment of billions of pounds, with construction due to be completed by 2031. Prime Minister Keir Starmer sounded quite giddy at the news, although you can already imagine a scandal if he takes advantage of free passes for the park in Bedfordshire.
People said to me, government will be a roller coaster, and I can testify to that. I don't think this is quite what they meant, but look, this is our plan for change in action, bringing investment, bringing opportunity, growth, jobs, and of course joy to Britain.
Chancellor Rachel Reeves was happy to see a substantial investment in the British economy, and she estimated the park could create up to 28,000 jobs between construction and staff.
Universal could have chosen anywhere in Europe to make this investment. The fact that they've chosen Britain, the fact that they've chosen Bedfordshire, is a real sign of confidence in the local economy and in the national economy.
Home Secretary Yvette Cooper clarified the government's position on grooming gang inquiries on Thursday, after both the Tories and Reform had accused Labour of watering down a commitment to investigate the matter. The Home Secretary insisted that the 5 inquiries already identified would proceed and that there could be more if needed. She was speaking as the government looked to focus on crime and security, with a focus on policing in towns and cities across the country.
We're bringing back neighbourhood policing. We'll be setting out the increase in officers, PCSOs across the country this year, and also ensuring there will be a named contactable officer for every community, and making sure we're increasing neighbourhood patrols, particularly in town centres.
Prime Minister Keir Starmer was in Cambridge, walking the streets with local bobbies, and he was keen to put specific numbers on the table, guaranteeing that more officers would be on local streets by March of 2026.
And today I can announce the first step, 3,000 new neighbourhood officers by the start of next year. All of them visible, on the beat, and serving their communities.
Two Labour MPs were denied entry into Israel last weekend and were in fact deported back to the UK. The two MPs were part of a delegation due to visit humanitarian projects in the West Bank in partnership with UK charities. But Yuan Yang and Abitsam Mohammed were refused entry at Israel's Ben Gurion airport. Israel said the two were rejected because they were planning to document the activities of security forces and spread anti-Israel hatred. Labour's chair of the Foreign Affairs Select Committee, Emily Thornberry, said the decision was totally unjustified.
I think that Israel was really badly advised on this. These are two young women who have huge clout. Instead of alienating them, I really think that Israel should try to engage them.
Foreign Secretary David Lammy also criticised the move, describing it as unacceptable and counterproductive. But Tory leader Kemi Badenoch had a somewhat different take when she spoke to Sky News.
What I think is shocking is that we have MPs in Labour who other countries will not allow through. I think that's very significant.
According to the Palestinian Red Crescent, autopsies carried out on 15 emergency workers who were killed in Gaza on March the 23rd revealed they were shot with intent to kill. Video footage has emerged of the crews of the emergency response vehicles travelling in convoy with sirens and lights flashing, in direct contradiction of Israel's initial explanation of the incident. The IDF has retracted their initial report of the incident, but still maintains that 6 of the men who were killed were connected to Hamas. President of the Palestinian Red Crescent Society, Yunus Al-Khatib, says there needs to be an international investigation.
It is required from the Security Council to force those who are violating and make them committed to execute the law.
Meanwhile, Israeli PM Netanyahu was at the White House to meet with President Trump, who had a dramatic announcement.
We're having direct talks with Iran, and they've started. It'll go on Saturday. We have a very big meeting, and we'll see what can happen. And I think everybody agrees that doing a deal would be preferable to doing the obvious.
Israel continued with airstrikes in Gaza this week, killing at least 20 people with a strike on a building in Gaza City that the IDF says was targeted at a Hamas militant. Meanwhile, it appears that Israel is intending to seize the entire city of Rafah as part of a new plan to create another security corridor through Gaza. With no progress on a ceasefire and no let-up in the Israeli blockade on aid, French President Emmanuel Macron has decided to push for more action at the UN in June. He's proposing recognising Palestine as a state, in line with France's long-term support of a two-state solution for the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. He will meet with Saudi Arabian negotiators and plans to co-chair the New York conference.
We are fighting for Gaza, for peace, for the return of security, for aid, and for a political solution. We need to go down the path of recognition, and that's what we'll do in the coming months.
As Donald Trump was focused on tariff wars, Russia's war on Ukraine has continued. Despite a supposed energy ceasefire, Russia has continued to strike at civilian targets in Ukraine, including an attack on President Zelensky's hometown last week that killed more than 20 people. A Ukrainian delegation was due to visit Washington this week for talks on the so-called rare earth mineral deal, which the US side appears to have made less appealing over time, while Russia avoided any tariffs at all on Liberation Day. NATO Secretary-General Mark Rutte says that Russia's refusal to deliver the promised ceasefire is intended to test the resolve of NATO members.
They're conducting this campaign. The good news is that as NATO, as collective, we are much, much better, not only at assessing what is happening, but also making sure that we prevent the next steps in this campaign from happening. And the Russians hate us for that. And we have to do this.
There was a surprising new development in Russia's war on Ukraine on Tuesday, as the Ukrainians captured 2 Chinese nationals who were fighting for Russia. The men were discovered fighting with Russian forces in the Donetsk region, and Ukrainian President Zelensky says it's more evidence that Russia has no interest in a ceasefire. It's not clear whether the 2 men are part of an official Chinese detachment or are mercenaries, and the Ukrainian security forces said they're still assessing the situation, while President Zelensky has asked Beijing for clarification. While North Korean troops have been fighting for Russia, China has maintained an official neutral position, and defence analyst Michael Clark says it's potentially very embarrassing for China.
But if these Chinese individuals turn up in Donetsk, which is contested territory, and if these Chinese individuals turn out to be in any way official, then that crosses quite a big legal line, because that then would mean that the Chinese are sending individuals to fight in a contested area to join an invasion of a foreign country.
Still to come on the Standout 7 in association with Metro. King Charles cracks jokes in Rome and Ed Sheeran chats Taylor Swift. Right after this.
Okay, business leaders, are you here to play or are you playing to win? If you're in it to win, meet your next MVP. NetSuite by Oracle. NetSuite is your full business management system in one convenient suite. With NetSuite, you're running your accounting, your finance, your HR, your e-commerce, and more, all from your online dashboard. Upgrade your playbook and make the switch to NetSuite, the #1 cloud ERP.
Get the CFO's Guide to AI and Machine Learning at netsuite.com/tech. netsuite.com/tech.
Welcome back.
The local election campaigns are in full swing ahead of polls opening on May the 1st. There are local councils, county councils and 4 regional mayoralties up for grabs, and Labour were the first major party to launch their campaign last week. Polling continues to show a strong performance for Reform, with Labour and the Tories tied for second and Lib Dems in 4th place, while the Greens are in 5th place, polling at about 9%. Former Green Party leader Caroline Lucas says the polls reflect uncertainty amongst the public.
There is a total lack of confidence and trust in Labour and Conservatives now, and people are looking for alternatives. I'm very sorry if they end up thinking that Reform is actually going to deliver for them, because I think it's very clear that they are not.
Tuesday saw the Green Party officially launching their local election campaign on Tuesday by branding Labour in government a crushing disappointment. And co-leader Carla Denyer said that while people are looking for positive change, she's not optimistic that Labour and Keir Starmer can provide it. Adrian Ramsey, the other co-leader of the party, said the focus needs to be on the planet and its future.
We can't underestimate the changes that we're seeing. And yes, it's absolutely right that we have seen a globalised economy over the last few decades that has increased inequality. And of course, our environment is being degraded all the time. So we do need to think about how we can create a more resilient future.
Kemi Badenoch has been having an awkward week with the media as she campaigns for the Tories in the local elections. She ran into controversy over the weekend as she appeared to back Israel over the deportation of 2 Labour MPs. And she found herself in hot water again on Thursday as she continued to refuse to watch the Netflix drama Adolescence. She maintains that if she doesn't need to watch Casualty to understand the NHS, she doesn't need to watch Netflix to understand toxic masculinity. She was also busy floating the idea of a local election pact with Reform.
Local leaders are going to need to do whatever they need to in order to make that happen. At a national level, I've just been elected leader of the Conservative Party. The party's on a new leadership. We're trying to rebuild trust with the public. Suddenly saying that we're rushing to form a pact or merge with another party is not what I was elected to do.
King Charles and Queen Camilla have been on a bit of a midweek break in Italy this week, celebrating 20 years of marriage. They got a private audience with Pope Francis on Wednesday afternoon at the Vatican and pronounced themselves delighted that the pontiff was well enough to meet them after his recent battle with illness. Wednesday night saw a formal state banquet in their honour, and King Charles became the first UK monarch to address both houses of the Italian Parliament. He used his speech to call for democracies such as the UK and Italy to stand together in these troubled times, but he also had some time for a quick Roman Empire joke.
Our ties go back over 2 millennia to those ancient Roman visitors who arrived on our windswept shores. It was the Romans who gave Britons the idea of putting a king's head on coins, so I'm especially grateful to them.
Ed Sheeran is back after a brief hiatus, and with a new album and 2 daughters under the age of 5, he's made some big life changes. He's sober, giving up drink and drugs, and says he's proudly no longer a maniac. He credits wife Cherry as a grounding force as he spilled the beans on the Call Her Daddy podcast with Alex Cooper. He also says his long-term aim is to move to US favourite city Nashville and become a country singer, and he was reminiscing about how he used to hang out there in 2013 with his bestie Taylor Swift. He says they're still really good friends, and that means clearing some time in the diary.
You know, I see her when I see her. I probably see her like 4 times a year, and we do what I said, like, instead of catching up the whole time, we have like proper sit down 6-hour catch ups, and I think that that's like a really nice way to do it.
You've been listening to The Smart 7. We'll be back tomorrow at 7 a.m. Hit that follow button and have a great day. Give us 7 minutes and we'll give you the world.
I don't know about you, but the number one thing I look forward to when I return from traveling is a good night's sleep in my own bed. That has never been more true than it is now that I have a Sleep Number smart bed. I get so sore after traveling on planes, but after literally one night in my Sleep Number smart bed, my body feels restored, rested, and relaxed. The fact that my bed actually listens to my body and adjusts to my needs to keep me sleeping soundly all the way through the night is worth it alone. Not to mention, my husband and I never need to argue over firmness because we can each dial in our own Sleep Number setting. Why choose a Sleep Number smart bed? So you can choose your ideal comfort on either side. And now, for a limited time, Sleep Number smart beds start at $849. Prices higher in Alaska and Hawaii. Exclusively at a Sleep Number store near you. See store or sleepnumber.com for details.